Dylan and Jenna were the type of thrill-seekers who didn't take no for an answer. So when they heard about the caves in Hollow Mountain, they were immediately intrigued. The legend spoke of strange disappearances, locals who had ventured into the caves and never returned, and others who came back, but they were different, changed. Some said it was a demon, others said it was something far worse. But Dylan and Jenna weren't scared. Dylan, it's all just stories. I've been through caves before, we'll be fine. Jenna, I've heard they found bones in there, and strange markings. People talk about hearing things, growling, like something's watching them. But Dylan wasn't hearing it. He had a map to the caves, and as the two of them ventured deeper into the mountains, the heavy scent of pine and earth filled the air, a far cry from the warm, comforting scent of home. Hollow Mountain loomed above them, casting long, ominous shadows as they hiked toward the cave entrance. The mountains seemed to swallow the light around it, giving the entire area a sense of foreboding. Jenna's unease grew, but Dylan was determined. They reached the cave's mouth just as dusk began to settle. The entrance was wide, dark, and the smell inside was something rotten, almost like decay. They turned on their headlamps and stepped inside, their voices echoing off the stone walls. The air grew cold, and the faint hum of wind whispered through the narrow passages, sending a shiver down their spines. The deeper they went, the more the cave seemed to change. The narrow passageways began to widen, and the walls became smooth, almost as if they had been carved. Jenna noticed strange markings on the stone, symbols that looked like they had been scratched into the surface, worn down with age. But there was something about them that felt wrong. "Jenna, do you see that?" Whispering. Jenna pointed to a dark figure near one of the cave walls. It seemed to move, but there was no one there. "Dylan, just shadows, Jen," voice wavering. "Let's keep going." They pressed on, deeper into the heart of the mountain, the air growing thick and oppressive. They reached a wide cavern, the floor slick with moisture and mud. In the center of the cavern stood an ancient stone altar, its surface covered in strange faded red stains that had long since dried. The symbols on the walls here were even more elaborate, and something about them gave off an overwhelming sense of dread. "Jenna, this doesn't feel right. We need to turn back." "Dylan, no, I want to get a closer look. We're already here." As he stepped closer to the altar, a sudden sound echoed through the cave. It was a deep, guttural growl, one that reverberated in the bones of their bodies, making their skin crawl. "Jenna, Dylan, what is that?" Dylan turned to face her, but his expression was one of disbelief. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, the growl turned into a screech, a sound that echoed off the walls and vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. The ground beneath them trembled, and the air turned suffocating, heavy with the scent of rot and something metallic, like blood. From the shadows, something moved. Slowly, a figure emerged from the darkness, tall, unnatural, with a hunched back and limbs too long to be human. Its skin was ashen, stretched tight over its bones, and its eyes, wide, unblinking, glowed a deep red in the darkness. The creature's mouth opened, and it let out a low, hissing growl. The stench of sulphur filled the air, and Jenna staggered back, feeling like she was suffocating. The creature's eyes locked on her, and she felt a wave of paralyzing fear wash over her, as though her body no longer belonged to her. "Dylan, we need to leave now!" But the creature was already moving toward them, its limbs stretching and contracting in ways that defied logic. It reached for them with long, clawed hands, each movement slow but deliberate, as if savoring their fear. The two of them turned and sprinted. But the cave seemed to shift around them, the walls closing in and the passages growing narrower. The sounds of the creatures' growls and heavy breathing echoed from behind them, each step growing louder, closer. "Jenna! Dylan, it's right behind us!" Suddenly they reached a narrow passageway, a tight squeeze that they barely managed to fit through. They pushed and shoved, the walls scraping against their shoulders until they finally broke free. But the creature was still behind them, growing closer, its growls now a frenzied roar. Finally they stumbled out of the cave, gasping for breath, their bodies covered in sweat and dirt. The night air was cold and sharp, but it felt like life again, like they had escaped the jaws of something ancient and terrifying. The creature's roar echoed from deep within the mountain, and as they ran back toward the forest, Jenna turned to look over her shoulder. There, standing at the cave's entrance, was the figure again, watching them with those glowing red eyes. But it didn't follow. They never spoke about what happened in the cave again. The locals, however, had a different story to tell. They claimed that anyone who ventured too deep into the caves of Hollow Mountain didn't just encounter the demon. They became part of it, their souls taken by the ancient evil that lurked in the shadows, forever trapped in the depths. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost, confused, and feeling like you were being watched? Beware. There are terrifying and mysterious beings that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and follow us for more. Join us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more bone-chilling chronicles, if you dare.